The history of rapid fire begins in the 1860s, when American inventor Richard Gatling unveiled a multi-barreled gun that could fire hundreds of rounds per minute.
Richard Jordan Gatling put his mind to the problem of rapid fire, and he believed that you could get round the difficulty of loading an individual barrel, which was always the issue. How do you load and fire an individual barrel quickly? He got round it by having a lot of barrels, and it was really a wonderful idea.
Gatling was fascinated by cyclical motion. He designed ship propellers, wheat drills, bicycle wheels, and notably, the first workable repeating firearm. His gun used a rotating wheel to quickly load and fire multiple barrels.
As soon as they would turn the crank, it would fire not one barrel, but multiple barrels. As it turned around, you would fire one barrel and then load it, and then the next barrel would come up ready to be loaded and fired.
The Gatling represented a new approach to warfare. Minimum manpower, maximum firepower.
With a Gatling gun, you now had a weapon which a small crew could operate, 2 to 5 soldiers, and this one weapon would have the firepower of 100 or 200 soldiers on the battlefield.
I gotta get me one of these.
The Gatling was heavy, more than 40 kilos. It was wheeled into battle on a carriage, and the US Army considered it an artillery piece, similar to their Napoleon guns. Some of these were used to fire canister shot against infantry. A metal canister full of lead balls worked like a giant shotgun cartridge.
Everybody was trying to make a better canister gun. When you shoot canister like out of the Napoleon, it comes out like a cone. It's always spreading in all angles. A Gatling gun lets you keep them all on a plane. So you're keeping your ammunition right where the height of a person, and you can just mow down the enemy.
The Gatling looked like the future, a rapid-fire dispenser of death. But it had a major flaw. Its design had outstripped the bullets then available. Metal cartridges were still on the drawing board, and the handmade paper-encased rounds of the day too often caused jams.
The Gatling gun was relatively slow to make its presence felt. Now, in part, that's because the first version didn't use proper metallic cartridges, so cartridges needed to develop. It also jammed quite often and was on a cumbersome carriage.
These drawbacks meant that during the American War between the states, which ran from 1861 to 1865, just a handful of Gatlings were sold, most to a Union Army general.
Federal forces, the federal government was not interested in. They saw the drawbacks of the invention and the lack of reliability. But a General Benjamin Butler purchased some on his own behalf with his own finances and set the ball in motion.
Butler bought 12 Gatlings. And late in the war, they rained death on Confederate forces, making traditional tactics instantly outdated.
They still stuck to linear warfare, the charge forward. And the Gatling gun would knock as many down as possible. They could break a charge pretty quick if you had a couple Gatlings working real well.
By 1865, Gatling had improved his invention. The new version chambered modern cartridges and jammed less frequently.
The Gatling gun gives you a high rate of fire, a high volume of fire, and a lot of the fear factor when going up against people who are used to rifles but are not used to this new horrible machine.
Gatling's invention was eventually surpassed by an even more destructive rapid-fire machine.
As long as you keep cold water flowing around the barrel, you can keep killing.